We've already vaccinated more people in this country than in the rest of Europe combined. And we will give the House the maximum possible transparency about our acceleration of this effort, publishing daily updates online from Monday, so that jab by jab, honourable members can scrutinise the progress being made every single day. Yet, as we take this giant leap towards finally overcoming the virus and reclaiming our lives, we have to contend with the new variant, which is between 50 and 70% more contagious. The old variant, which the House agreed last month, the tiers that the House agreed last month, was working with the old variant. But alas, this mutation, spreading with frightening ease and speed, in spite of the sterling work of the British public, this mutation has led to more cases than we've seen ever before, numbers that, alas, cannot be explained away by the meteoric rise in testing. When the Office of National Statistics reports that more than 2% of the population is now infected, and when the number of patients in hospitals in England is now 40% higher than the first peak in April, it is inescapable that the facts are changing and we must change our response. And so we have no choice but to return to a national lockdown in England, with similar measures being adopted by the devolved administrations, so we can control this new variant until we can take the most likely victims out of its path with vaccines. Because we must do everything possible to stop the spread of the disease, we've asked schools and colleges to close their doors to all except vulnerable children and those of critical workers. Mr. Speaker, I don't think the House would be in any doubt about our determination, my determination, to keep schools open, especially primary schools, open for as long as possible, because all the evidence shows that school is the best place for our children. And indeed, all the evidence shows that schools are safe and that the risk posed to children by coronavirus is vanishingly small. For most children, the most dangerous part of going to school, even in the midst of a global pandemic, remains, I'm afraid, crossing the road in order to get there. But the data showed, and our scientific advisors agreed, that our efforts to contain the spread of this new variant would not be sufficient if schools continued to act as a vector or a potential vector for spreading the virus between households. Mr. Speaker, I know the whole House will join me in paying tribute to all the teachers, all the pupils and parents who are now making the rapid move to remote learning, and we will do everything possible to support that process, building on the 560,000 laptops and tablets provided last year, with over 50,000 delivered to schools on Monday and more than 100,000 being delivered in total during the first week of term. We have partnered with some of the UK's leading mobile operators to provide free mobile data to disadvantaged families to support access to education resources. And I'm very grateful to EE, 3, Tesco Mobile, Smarty, Sky Mobile, Virgin Mobile and Vodafone for supporting this offer. Oak National Academy will continue to provide video lessons, and it's very good news that the BBC is launching the biggest education programme in its history, with both primary and secondary school programmes across its platforms. We recognise it will not be possible or fair for all exams to go ahead this summer as normal, and the Education Secretary will be making a statement shortly. Mr. Speaker, I know many people will ask whether the decision on schools could have been reached sooner, and the answer is that we've been doing everything in our power to keep them open, because children's education is too vital and their futures too precious to be disrupted until every other avenue, every other option has been closed off and every other course of action has been taken. And that's why schools were the very last thing to close, as I've long promised that they would be. And when we begin to move out of lockdown, I promise that they will be the very first things to reopen. That moment may come after the February half-term, although we should remain extremely cautious about the timetable ahead. And as was the case last spring, our emergence from the lockdown cocoon will not be a big bang, Mr. Speaker, but a gradual unwrapping. That is why the legislation this House will vote on later today runs until the 31st of March, not because we expect the full national lockdown to continue until then, but to allow a steady, controlled and evidence-led move down through the tiers on a regional basis, carefully, brick by brick, as it were, breaking free of our confinement, but without risking the hard-won gains that our protections have given us.